Most B2B and professional services firms experience growth primarily through networking, word of mouth, and referrals. The problem is that that's an extremely slow way to experience growth and grow your business. So, what can you actually do to speed up the rate of your growth? How do you scale without being reliant on hiring lots of different employees to be able to run and go out and do your business development? And what's the most important and most effective strategy in actually scaling the business? In this video, I'm going to be going through the exact strategies that B2B and professional services firms have traditionally used to grow and scale their business, and the new way that businesses are using now to scale. Stick around till the end where I show you the exact strategy that's working the best for our clients right now. If you don't know who I am, my name is Saeed Chowdhury. I'm the founder here at SRC Growth Partner, an advertising firm that helps B2B and professional services firms scale their high ticket, high value offers through paid advertising. We take a very holistic approach to growth, what we call from cold to close, from cold to cash in the bank. We come in, we build an advertising engine end to end, and then we run it for them to scale. But before I go through the new way of scaling, as well as going into how you can implement it yourself, if you want to check out what we do with a little bit more detail, I have my website linked below. And so you can just click it, watch the video on the landing page to give yourself a little bit more of a feel of what SRC GP actually do, and then go from there. But I won't waste any more time. Let's just jump into the video. Okay, so there's a few things that we want to be touching on today. So firstly, it's going to be cold versus warm. Secondly, we're going to talk about education based marketing. Third, we're going to be talking about client acquisition channel. And four, we're going to be talking about the strategy. So let's go into the cold versus warm. So most professional services and B2B businesses grow this way through warm leads. And warm leads are leads that typically come to you through referrals, word of mouth, or networking, anywhere that where trust is almost built into the relationship or the lead already. They come in, and typically what happens is you'll see higher close rates and also shorter sales cycles. And the reason that is the case is because when someone comes in through a referral, word of mouth, and through your network, what we call the KLT framework is activated, right? And so KLT stands for know, like, and trust. And we all know that people need to know, like, and trust you before they can ever make a purchase from you, right? And so whenever a warm lead comes in, typically the trust is inbuilt into the relationship already. And then it's a case of whether they like and they can trust you. And so how do we then manufacture that side of things and make it so it works for the cold audiences or colder markets? And that's the key here, how we implement this KLT framework and put it into a world where customers can actually fall within this framework, increasing the likelihood of more opportunities closing in the back end, right? So in order for us to understand exactly that, is we need to understand something called the buyer's pyramid, right? So 3% here. And so you're probably wondering, what have I just written out here? Well, the buyer's pyramid is a concept essentially talking about in any given market, in any given time, only 3% of that market is actively looking to purchase your service, right? 7% is open to it. 30% are not thinking about it. The next 30% don't think they're interested. And then the final 30% know they're not interested. And so what's really important, and what most professional services and B2B businesses do, is they focus on this 3%, which is, there's plenty to go around, right? And there's plenty to create successful businesses and lots of small businesses. However, the real skill to be able to scale your business as quickly as possible and hit the heights that you're looking to hit is to really understand how to optimize for this 67% here. And so the 67% is the market that are either open to your solution, not thinking about your solution, or don't think they're interested in your solution. And one of the key aspects of understanding this is marketing, right? This is fundamentally what marketing and advertising really is. And this is what business development is, right? So you're going out there, you're prospecting and getting out there. There's an element of prospecting in this. However, full on marketing and actual marketing is to get cold audiences, cold eyeballs, and turn them into actual deals in the back end, into actual closed opportunities, right? And so understanding this gives you a better understanding of how you really want to be approaching your growth goals and how to scale the business, right? Let's jump into what is required to get that 67%. So the 67%, to be able to close those, you need to educate that market, and that's why we call it education based marketing, right? And the reason you need to be educating them is because some of these prospects don't even know they have a problem, right? So what you need to be doing is you need to educate them on who you are, what problem you solve, how you can help them, why they can trust you. And really, all your content needs to be focused on these. Whether it's building your authority, building credibility, whether and working on the trust factor, or working on you actually being the best person to solve a specific problem, whatever it might be, it's so important to actually educate the market on what you do. And that's the first pillar of any kind of scaling avenue, right? Once you have that content, whether that's a newsletter, whether that's email campaigns, whether you have an email list that sends out value-based emails going out to your list, whether that's actual video content, whether that's LinkedIn content, social media content, whatever it might be, as long as you're there educating, then you have an opportunity there to tap into this 67%. But just tapping into that 67% doesn't really do much, right? It can, again, take a really long time to grow if you do not have a client acquisition system or channel that actually is capable of converting these eyeballs or the attention that you generate into cash in the bank, right? So, and that's where a lot of the challenge is, right? Actually having a system in the back end. You could Lots of people are making content now. That doesn't mean that lots of people are making millions and millions and millions of dollars or pounds, right? And that's because there's no actual clear coherent system to be able to convert these in the back end. And so what does client acquisition look like? Well, there's lots of different ways to acquire clients, right? The typical way is conferences, right? Or networking, in professional services or B2B, right? You go to conferences, you maybe do a keynote, you do a speech, you have a stand, whatever it might be, to make people aware of your service or the problem you solve, get eyeballs onto you. Next, SEO. So everyone knows that you need to have a decent website, you need to have blogs, you need to have some kind of online presence. Problem with SEO and blogs is a large investment of time. There's a lot of competition now. Often the content out there isn't great. It's also now being disrupted by AI and ChatGPT. And so you really need to learn things like AI SEO and how to actually rank for that. Very complicated area, and it actually requires a long-term investment. So again, slow for growth, right? And then you've got things like content, which we said, so get the eyeball. And then you've got cold outreach, which is things like cold email, cold calling, LinkedIn outreach. And then we've got paid advertising, paid ads. So that's anywhere from Google, Meta, that type of stuff. So what we have found is the most effective way of actually scaling your professional services firm is a combination of content and paid ads. And what does that look like? So I'm not going to go through the exact paid ads system because it's quite extensive. I do have another video where it goes through the exact strategy and funnel that we built out for our client that generated 2 million in sales in 6 months for them. So you can check that out. It'll be somewhere on this page. So feel free to check that content out to see the exact funnel strategy. But the combination is really these two here. So the content and paid ads combination. Why does that work? Well, by far the quickest way to scale your B2B or professional services business is by purchasing eyeballs, right? Purchasing eyeballs. And that's what paid ads or meta ads specifically allows you to do. You essentially buy the eyeballs, and then your job is to build out a mechanism in the back end to convert those eyeballs into actual cash in the bank. And how exactly does that work? Well, first of all, having the system in place to be able to put money in, have eyes come in. So let's say they see your ad, right? And then they're able to then go, you generate enough interest where they go, okay, well, they'll come to your landing page, whatever funnel it might be. This is a VSL funnel. And then they would go into a thank you page or confirmation page, right? A thank you page. Understanding that the journey that the lead or customer goes through is incredibly important before they even get to the sales conversation, right? And most people complain about the fact that they get really bad leads. And we talk about extensively about pixel training on Meta and algorithm training on Meta. And when you check out the other video, you'll see what I mean by that. But essentially, what we want to be doing is training the algorithm to give us the right types of qualified opportunities coming through the funnel and coming through the ad campaign, right? And so the only way we can do that is by actually breaking down the funnel in a certain way where we can qualify the actual ideal customers you have and disqualify those who do not meet the certain criteria that you have, right? And once we do that and we can train the algorithm to put the ad in front of the right types of people, what you'll find is the sales come in. And when you add content as a layer before the sales call and the booking, so you have content retargeting, you have emails, you have SMS. You're very specific with the type of content that's targeted to the individuals coming into the sales conversation. What ends up happening is this sales conversation no longer becomes an education call where you're educating them on the product. Instead, the content that you've been creating to educate the market is being sent to them beforehand. And then instead, this education call ends up becoming an actual sales call where you can deal with actual objections, right? And so that's what the best companies that are actually looking to scale are doing. They're focusing on paid advertising, understanding front end offers, understanding the mechanism that's required to actually close these deals, and also understanding in enough detail the LTV or the lifetime value of a client so that they can make advertising on these platforms profitable because they're expensive, right? It's expensive. And if you don't have a system that actually converts these, you're not going to get the results that you want. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this piece of content and this video. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what we do and how we might be able to help, feel free to book a call. You can just go onto my website, which is below, and then you can just book a call there. Otherwise, reach out to me in any other way. It's been a pleasure.